what's up guys? We're going to do another episode of Being a Lineman today. For those of you that are new to the channel, in these episodes, very little editing. I don't even know what I'm walking into right now. Just got a call from dispatch saying there was no power. From what I've seen so far, it only affects 2 customers. We've got about an hour drive ahead of us. So we're going to document our findings. Could be something exciting, could be something boring. Either way, we'll take you guys along for the ride. Alright, so we are not on site yet, but we're at my first stop, the entryway onto the mountain. I always stop here first because you see there's 3-phase set of switches there. Sometimes I'll get a call from just one customer and I actually lost one of the phases on the main line feeding up into the mountain. A lot of the customers up here, you can see there's a cell tower up there. Right there's another one. Some windmills and stuff, and I think there's about 5 towers up there, not a whole lot of homes. So it's not unusual to get support from one customer and then show up and actually have one of these switches out in the main line. So that's all closed in. It's a good start. We'll keep on trucking down the road to the next set of switches. We are at the next set of switches now, still on the main line. Center phase is open, which is a bit strange. With the wind, typically you have a field phase if a tree comes down that blows. Zoom in and see if the tail's hanging out of that fuse. Oh, it looks good. See the tail coming out still intact. So that's interesting. And as I suspected, there's still quite a few customers on this main line. I think there's still 4 more cell towers, maybe a dozen homes, maybe. With that center phase out, they were predicting the transformer open rate where the customer was. So I'm going to take note of this switch number. I'm not even going to open my map because it's going to lock my computer up solid. I don't quite need it yet. 8004 SO52. A lot of times when we have a phase open, before carrying on, I'll open the 2 remaining phases, especially if there's 3-phase load. If there's customers, industrial customers on that are fed off of the 3 phases and one is open and they don't have 3-phase protection through relays, or if a phase drops out, it disconnects them from our system entirely. It can really wreak havoc throughout their equipment. 3-phase motors and such are going to try to run off the 2 phases. They're going to start smoking and ultimately get destroyed. Clouding over quick. The weather's always funny up here in the mountains. We're getting some rain here now. So we're just going to carry on down the road and keep an eye on that center phase. See what we find. At this point, I'm not even sure what we're looking for. It could be a cracked insulator. I'm still assuming a tree, maybe for whatever reason it didn't kick out the field phase, but we'll see when we get there. So as we're going down the road now, trees are pretty easy to spot, but I'm also keeping an eye on all of the pole top insulators, make sure there's not an insulator blown or something. That 3-phase sideline there feeds into another tower. There, but they're off the road phase, so their power is not affected. It's extremely likely that if we do find a tree across the 3-phase, even with hot sticks and rubber gloves, we would have to open the remaining phases before doing any work, as disturbing the tree could easily cause an arc flash. Again, the reason I didn't open them yet, it could be an animal, it could be a bird or a squirrel or something. If it's an insulator, then I'll need another crew here anyways, and I'll leave the remaining 2 phases closed in just to keep the customers on that are still on. It's not hurting anything being down to the 2 phases. The towers that are on the 3-phase have protection and they switch over to a generator. house we just drove by, they are off the center phase, so is this guy here. So already there's 2 customers out of power. There's the 3rd one there. As soon as I call dispatch and update them on the device that's open, it'll update the number of customers affected on the incident. There's number 4 right there. Most of these are camps though too. Also want to keep an eye on the ground a little bit. Sometimes the tree will come by and hit the lines and then it'll clear itself, it'll carry right on down to the ground. You can usually see evidence that it was the culprit if you check out the top of the tree that did hit. It's typically a small tree that happens, but you can oftentimes see burn marks on it, just kind of confirming that it did make contact with the lines. So far everything is looking good. Want to keep an eye on all the cutouts, all the fuses as well. A great example, this one right here, it is tapped on the center phase. It's not normal system operation, but sometimes you'll have a fault on the sideline and it will kick the mainline fuse as well. Looks like we got something right up here. I would say this is our guy. That's interesting. So there's our culprit right there. The top of the tree is laying right across the 3-phase. Kind of strange it didn't kick. It's not really touching the one at the phase closest to me. It's kind of sitting over top of it a little bit right here. But it's definitely hard on these 2 guys. So there would be some voltage tracking through that branch into the open phase a little bit. Got another broken piece hanging out on the cutout, and then the tree itself is in real close to that road face. Pretty easy fix. Not something I'll need to call the guys in. Give me a hand with. I definitely going to open the remaining 2 phases. I could actually probably push that up and flip it around. The only problem if I push it up and around, that main phase there, it is still energized. It could swing down and hit the neutral and cause an arc flash. Plus I still have to remove the main stem of the tree. Part is though we won't have to take a permit, go up, put grounds on and stuff. It doesn't take a whole lot longer if ever there's any doubt whatsoever. Obviously putting grounds on's not a big issue. You'll often hear them say it's not dead until the lines are grounded. So when I open the remaining phases, I'm going to assume everything there is still alive, but we will do a potential check, proximity detector, make sure there's no voltage passing through, and then we're going to treat those wires as energized the entire time we're working. We're going to be using our 20 kV rubber gloves, testing hot sticks, and maintaining our limits of approach. I'm also not going to be using any power saws of any kind, as I do require a second guy in sight for that. So first thing we're going to do, I'll shut off the camera. I'm just going to rip down through the rest of the line first, where there was quite a bit of wind earlier today. I want to make sure that there's no other hazards on this line. It's only going to take me 10 or 15 minutes to check that out. Then we'll call our dispatcher, head back, and dump all 3 phases, take care of this guy and close it back in. So hang tight. So my computer the maps are completely frozen. It's been here for 15 minutes and it just, yeah, I can't even close it. I'm gonna have Control Alt delete that. But just give you guys a quick rundown. Super basic drawing, but this is the direction it came from out of town. And then this is the road. This is our first stop, the switch. And if we kept going straight, this goes back into town. So this is a loop feed. There's alternate switches we can energize that from alternate sources. However, this line feeding into the mountain, once you follow the line, it's a radial feed, so it's just going to eventually dead end. If my page was way longer, it's quite a few poles, like 200 or 300. The second stop was right here. I'll have to double check the switch number. I believe it was 8004 SO52, I think, but we will confirm that. Our fault location was pole 541. So we'll call our dispatch, report that center phase open, and open the remaining phases. That's going to isolate this whole section of line right to the dead end where the power lines stop. So I won't have to drive and check another switch open on the other end. Once that device is open, this whole section will be isolated, and we'll be able to do our work with hot sticks and gloves.
Go ahead, Scott.
Hey Scott, it's Aaron here. I'm on that outage call, and I want to bring up switch 8004 SO52.
There, and go ahead for 8004 SO52.
10-4, I've got center phase only open at 8004 SO52, patrolled the line, and at pole 8004 541. There's a tree down and the top broke off. It's sitting across the 3 phases. I'd like permission to open the remaining 2 phases at 8004 SO52 and remove the tree top with sticks and gloves at pole 541. And then refuse and close 8004 SO52.
10-4, Aaron, you've got center phase only open on 8004 SO52 and in at pole 541. You've got a treetop laying across all 3 phases, but you'd like to open up 8004 SO52, clear that tree with stick and rubber gloves, and then close back in 8004 SO52.
10-4, that is correct.
Whenever you're ready there, you can go ahead and check open the open phase, or open the remaining 2 phases on 8004 SO52, and you can go ahead and check for potential. If none, you can go ahead and remove that tree at pole 541 with stick and rubber glove, and then you have permission, once everything is clear, to refuse and close 8004 SO52 with a 15 amp and report back.
10-4, you said I do have permission to go ahead and check open at 8004 SO52, the center phase, and then open the remaining 2 phases. And then I can go ahead and check for potential. If not, and clear the tree at pole 541 with sticks and rubber gloves. Once the line's clear, I can go ahead, refuse and close 8004 SO52 and report.
We're there.
10-4, it'll be less than an hour. What did you click?
21 clear.
Alright, so we're gonna set up the truck and use our load buster tool. I'm pretty sure there's less than 10 amp. That's our threshold. If there's any more than 10 amp on a cutout, we have to use our load buster. It's a 15 amp fuse, so there could be, no, especially right here where there could be some fault current. There could be some current flow through that branch, increasing the amperage. So just to be safe, we're going to use our load buster, go up in the air, and open all 3. And we're also going to remove the doors from the switches. When you're going hands on the line on a work permit, you have to remove the doors. It's not likely, but they could close. There could be a tree hit mid-span, and that shock, when it bounces off, you can flip those up shut. Could be a vehicle accident. We're not going to chance it, even though we're not going hands on. There is potential for a cross phase if something becomes energized, so why take the risk? It'll only take me an extra minute or so to remove all 3 cutout doors. So we'll slap on the helmet cam and go look after that. So one thing I forgot to notice when I was filming this, you can kind of see right in front of my truck, there's kind of a business there. It's a snowmobile club, but there is an open restaurant inside. They were off one of the phases that was still energized. It was a single phase 400 amp entrance. So off camera, I did go up to the restaurant just as a courtesy and let them know that the power would be out for probably only be about 45 minutes. But they did have a standby generator, runs off propane, that kicks in as soon as the power goes out, so they weren't concerned at all. it's impossible to notify all the customers on the line before we open it. But if there is any sensitive customers or businesses, I'll try my best to notify them, but it's definitely not something that happens often. Also, you notice when I gathered my sticks, it's not a good habit to hang your sticks off the bucket. When I was climbing up into the bucket, I leaned them up against the lip, climbed up inside, and then the shorter sticks I'll place right in the bucket with me, and the longer stick I'll hold on to that horizontally along the back of my boom section so it doesn't get tangled up in anything. This first part of the job, you can see I went right up close to the structure, up above everything. As I mentioned in every video, the first step before you work on a structure is to do a quick inspection. Just check over the insulators, especially the cutouts. There's 2 porcelain cutouts up there, so I wanted to make sure before operating them that there was no cracks in the cutouts. Another thing I often preach about, using the entire length of the stick. When using a load buster, our standards allow to be, the minimum distance is 6 feet away, so I've got 2 6-foot long sticks, the AB sticks, and I wasn't too worried about running from the end of the stick. The load buster, a little bit of weight on the end, the closer you are the better, and the cutouts were in good shape, so I'm just kind of hold midway on the B section of that stick. A lot of guys ask about which phase to open first. There's nothing written in stone. It's a good habit to work your way in. So the phase nearest you open that first, then move on to the center, and then to the field side. Reason for that is just, I mean, stuff's not overly close in this structure. You get into doing rubber glove work and whatnot. That way, as you're going in between, if you go in between the primary and neutral, you're going in between isolated phases as opposed to live. So right there, I did hang the stick on the outside of the bucket just so I can remove the doors. I grabbed the top 2 section of my extendo stick here. So I think it's later on in the video that I mentioned these cutouts, they're 3 different style doors, so I do kind of keep a mental note of which door came out of which cutout. Easy enough to remember as the 2 outside ones, or sorry, the one on the right hand side and the center, they're a similar style, and the center one has a blown fuse. And then this door on the newer cutout simply will not fit those other 2 cutouts, so that one's obvious. These newer style doors, notice I removed it at a funny angle. You can see that keyhole shape in the front, so even when you remove them off to the side, there's virtually no way that that door can fall off your stick. So I love those new style doors. So just moving off the guy wire, and then as I mentioned, not to leave the stick hanging. I always try to run it back. Like you can see how it's perpendicular right alongside my boom there, so it's not going to get tangled up in anything. Very important to be aware of all your surroundings. Sometimes you see the camera spinning around all over the place. When you're operating a boom, you're constantly checking around your work area, making sure that you don't get the bottom of your bucket tangled up the telephone line. You want to make sure the knuckle of your boom doesn't get into some wires crossing the road. We're going to really see that in the next shot where I go up and cut the tree. The knuckle of my boom will be very close to some communication wires. And again here, you don't want to travel with your sticks in the bucket. So we're going to lay them against the bucket there and pack her up. We are losing our daylight pretty quick here. So you guys are going to laugh at this. This is my stick saw blade. It's looking a little limp right now. A lot of times I'll cut branches way high up with the telescopic stick, with the extendo stick. And the other day I was cutting a real big branch. It was like 30 feet off the ground, and as the branch come down, it bent my saw blade. I think I hadn't been on my truck in the last couple weeks. I thought I had another saw blade here. But something I will mention, when you are cutting with an extension stick, the back and forth motion as you're cutting, it can wear away at the fiberglass. This is the brand new, actually, chunk here. Whoa. This is the new Penta stick that I'm trying out. Not sponsored at all. This is something our distributor give us a try, but I do know Roger from Penta, a real great guy. So since I'm going up in the bucket anyways, I'm not going to put the saw blade on the telly stick and unnecessarily put some wear on that. Instead, things are not in their spots. I'm going to put our potential indicator on there, proximity detector. Does a little self-test. We are going to set that to 12 kV. We're working on a 12 kV system. I'm not going to need this hammerhead. I don't know why somebody's got a tag on my other spare hammerhead. Come on. Proximity detector, and we're going to mount our crooked saw blade on the AV stick. And last but not least, this guy. We're going to, once I get everything cleared away from the tree, or from the primary, I'll cut the main tree with that. It'd be a whole lot easier than sticking it with my limp blade. So at the work area now, you can see what I meant a few moments ago when I mentioned the knuckle of your truck. Having to dance around some of those wires crossing the street. I'm extremely close. It's not an ideal position for my truck to be set up, kind of directly below them like that. But I've just got a short little boom. If I had a bigger truck, I would have pulled ahead another good 10 feet to really get my knuckle out of those overhead wires. But I did set up just slightly ahead of them, so I knew I did have lots of space to move around as long as I was very careful. So what we're doing now is just a quick potential check, having our proximity detector set at 12 kV. It's important to know there's definitely going to be some stray voltage in those lines. The proximity detector is set at 12,000 volts. There's definitely not that much, but those wires where they're not grounded, they are absolutely not safe to touch. So when I say that I'm going to treat them as energized, I'm literally keeping my clearance, my 2 foot 1 inch, from anything that's energized at the primary voltage. That 2 foot 1 inch, it's important to understand that that also includes anything that you're handling and its maximum reach. So if I'm holding onto a hammer and I reach my arm up over my head, the tip of that hammer is where you start measuring that 2 foot 1 inch. This orange hot stick doesn't count because it is tested and it is a live line tool. So you can see now I already have my 2 feet. I'm not going to take out a measuring stick and measure. Someone mentioned in a previous video it's oddly accurate to have that 2 foot 1 inch. I mean, the lines are isolated and I will be still wearing my rubber gloves when I cut that tree, but there's all kinds of clearance from that now. If I did for some reason have to go hands on to any of those wires, I would have to have a second guy on site. There are times when I would cut a tree even this big still with the AV stick, but where I do have enough clearance now, just a whole lot easier on the shoulders to use the sawzall, the hacksaw they call it. A couple people asked about cutting trees with a hacksaw. With the new blades they have nowadays, They are extremely efficient, and at our company we are not allowed to use a chainsaw without having a second person on site, even out of the bucket. So that's why I've got this in the truck and I use it in a lot of videos. Being a Culprit that responds by myself, once I arrive on scene, I figure out what I need for backup. I'm quite a ways out of the town, and the other crew in the city is very busy right now. If I felt that my safety was a concern in any way, shape, or form during this, I would stand by and wait however long it took. Even if I had to wait 3-4 hours, even longer for another crew, the safety is the utmost importance. But I'm not dealing with a ton of tension. I'm not working on the high voltage lines. It's a very basic job that we're doing here, so I had no concerns whatsoever. I did, however, not only let my dispatcher know, but also I did call the other crew and let them know I was heading up onto the mountain. If they didn't hear back from me in an hour or two, they'd be checking in on me or checking in with dispatch to see if they heard from me. So right here, it's a heavy enough chunk of wood and it's just kind of caught up in the brush. Even though it's quite close to the ground, it's probably still 10 feet off the ground there. You don't want to leave anything hanging in the trees. We are in an extremely rural area. It's not likely anyone would ever walk below that. Nonetheless, you don't want to leave any widowmakers, basically, any branches hanging up in the tree. And any deadfall, you want to clear that away, just so that it's not a hazard. You can see my knuckle, how close it is to those lines.
Man, we are losing daylight fast. I want to get a quick shot of refusing the cutout. It's a little bit of an oddball cutout door. This guy here. This is mostly what you see nowadays. So this, if I mix up the doors, these ones aren't interchangeable. This has to go back in the exact same cutout it came out of, which was the center phase. So we'll just remember that when we go up there. Couple things I'll mention. We've all seen cutout doors refused many times online, but I'll go over it once again for the newer viewers. As these fuse barrels get UV damage, it exposes the fibers, the fiberglass fibers inside. You don't want to be handling these with your bare hands. When they're brand new, not a big deal, but just try not to get a habit or else you'll get some real itchy rash on your hands. Another thing I'll mention, I think I've even preached in videos before, the only tool you need when refusing a cutout is a set of pliers, because as you tighten that nut, it should be on just over hand tight, something you can typically do with your pliers. Every once in a while you come across one that somebody tightened with a wrench, so then you're gonna go back and get your crescent wrench. Also, sometimes these caps after an arc flash, they kind of weld on. So I've been using these for 6 months. Again, not sponsored at all. Just love sharing really great products with you guys. These are the Matty fuse pliers, I guess. Yeah, it says right on there, fuse plier. And man, this is one of my favorite new products that's out there. It's often not worthwhile having a product dedicated to one very specific task, such as refusing cutout doors. These guys here, you legit throw those in your pocket when you take off or walk into the woods to refuse cutout door, and you will not need any other tool. It's very cool. It has the cap grabber there. Got some little grips in it, so when that's on there a little tight, you can release that. Also, typically, as I mentioned, you should be able to back that nut off with your pliers, but if you don't, it's got, what is it, 3/4, 5/8 and 9/16, and then also it's got a, I think that's a 3/4, yeah, 3/4 in the head of it. So very cool. It's literally a one-stop shop when it comes to refusing cutouts. So highly recommend that, guys. You will not regret buying them. So just as we refuse here, we've got our 15 amp fuse. As you open these, I mentioned before, you want to keep an eye on the head of that guy. Sometimes that falls off, it just screws on, so sometimes you lose it in the bag. Make sure that's on there good and tight. It just has to be hand tight. I will mention, when closing a line, and you have to talk, well, at our company anyways, you have to talk to our dispatcher before closing the line in this case, where it's just a radial feed, it's a dead end line and there's nobody else working in the area. I had permission to close that in as soon as the work was completed. So I'm just going to go through this quick. We've all seen this done many times. For those of you who haven't seen it, check out the video where I break this open. The fuse link that's underneath that cardboard is tiny, tiny, tiny. Way smaller than that. It's pretty cool. So we'll put that in. The cap on a fuse barrel, basically hand tight, but a good hand tight. This one doesn't matter a whole lot because the connection is on these bars. But when you get into these cutout doors, the connection is actually on the cap. So if those threads are loose, you could get some marking or some oxidization going on in there. If you wanted to snug it up a bit, again with these, I wouldn't come right onto it because somebody's going to come along with a set of pliers and curse your name if that's overly tight. These ones are a lot harder to hang too, but still follows the same principle. It goes through the spring, wraps around the nut, and even though these pliers come with the little socket fitting, I'm not sure what you call it, ratchet, I don't know. You still only want to put it hand tight with the head. So that's as tight as you want it. You don't want to put these guys on and tweak right onto that. Also, because that fuse link is so small inside, you don't want to yank that crazy tight. It can actually pull the fuse link apart at that tiny little aluminum weld. And of course they come with a little cutter, so snip that off. We are refused with a 15 amp fuse, ready to go. Let's see if we can get back to that switch before we completely lose daylight and can't see where we're hanging the doors. It's that weird time of night where you don't quite need the spotlight yet, but getting pretty dark. And this guy's pretty bright. Try to light those up a little better. Especially those older style cutouts, they are a little bit harder to hang. Alright. Computer's still not working. I'm probably going to head over to the office on the way back. I also have an emergency locate for a water break for the town to grab when I get back into town. Let's all put this guy on too. So last step of the job is to energize the line. There are sometimes when I'm doing stick work that I will leave the doors hanging in the cutout, but where I was up in the boom in the air close to the primary, that's where I opted to remove the cutout doors. During a work permit, it's required that we remove the cutout doors. Let's say I was just going to flip that branch off right from the ground. If that main part of the tree was nowhere near, and I was just going to flip that tiny little branch off the 3-phase, I just would have left the doors hanging there in the open position, because if the very slight chance that they did get closed by the wind or a vehicle accident or something, I would be far enough away. There'd be no safety concerns whatsoever. The cutout door I just hung, that's one of the newer styles, that keyhole one. Those guys are super easy to hang, even in the wind or if you're up 40 feet in the air, they're pretty easy to hang. These older style ones, the 2 ears that they hang on, I'll have to do a close-up of it one of these days, but the best way I can describe it is, instead of just simply dropping it into the cutout, the 2 ears on either side, you make contact with the brass hangers first, and then you ride it up the hangers with just slight pressure inward, and once you get to the top of those 2 little wings, it'll kind of drop right down into place. Went pretty quick and easy there, but that's with many years of practice. If you've never operated those doors, it's good to practice with one on the ground just to kind of see how they set in place, because they can definitely be tricky. Also, a lot of times I will hang all 3, then close all 3, especially if there is 3-phase industrial customers. In this line here, it doesn't matter which order I close them in. If anything, what I will tell guys is, if you have 1 phase blown open, let's say you patrolled the line, you didn't find anything, so you got permission to refuse and close. If for some reason you did open the remaining phases, the one that blew open, pay attention to this part here, the one that blew open, close that last. The reason for that is, let's say the center phase was blown,
and we close road and then center. While we're messing around with our stick getting ready to close that field, that center one could blow open while you're staring right at it. Alright, so that went well, as expected. Hey Scott, it's Aaron here. Got a couple switching steps to report at that EDO4 SO52.
Go ahead there, Aaron.
Alright, so I'd like to report that I checked open the center phase at EDO4 SO52 and opened the 2 remaining phases. I removed the check for potential and removed the tree of sticks and gloves at pole 541. Line is clear, so I refused and closed EDO4 SO52 with 15 amp fuses.
When it opened the remaining phase on EDO4 SO52, check for potential or whatever done, you went ahead and removed that tree at pole 541 with sticks and gloves, and then you refused and closed the EDO4 SO52 15 amp and everything is back to normal.
10-4, that's correct. And while I got you, when you get a chance, could you create an emergency locate work order for me?
Do you have a meter number or a locator, I guess a pole number, anything there for me?
The address is 700. I can't get a meter number because my map system won't even open there now. Are you able to make it off that address?
And in beer?
Sorry, you were cut off there.
It comes up with the account. Is that what we're doing it for here?
It's for a broken water main for the town, so any address in that vicinity will work.
You want to put on you right now?
Yeah, 10-4. It's showing me not connected probably. I had to shut my computer down. Once I get in service area, I'm going to try to reboot it again there.
I got the call made up now. I'll put it on you.
Perfect, thanks Scott. And there was no other calls that you dropped on me in the last hour or so, eh?
Right now there.
Perfect, sounds good Scott. I'll be back in cell reception soon if anything comes in.
You're in.
182 click. Excellent, well that was a good little call. Didn't have to break too much of a sweat. I hope you all enjoyed coming along for the ride. Still haven't done that rappelling video for Bucket Escape. Just, I need a second guy on site for a backup rope. I haven't had the opportunity yet, but I do promise it is coming as soon as I get an opportunity to do that. So thanks for stopping in. As always, guys, be safe, and we'll see y'all soon. For a second, I'll grab a clip from it. Perfect. Oh, awesome.